Okay, so good evening, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Please feel free to reach out to me at any point if you have any questions about anything, to schedule meetings one-on-one, or to just to go over anything that you think would be helpful for the paper coming up. This assignment or this video tonight, just to give you a sense of it, probably be a series of videos. Um, is going to cover one of the two poems that I asked you to read for Monday morning for Monday, which is the poem One Art by Elizabeth Bishop. I'm going to walk us through some of it, not all of it, because your response journal will ask you to do that on your own, applying some of the techniques that I've done as well. So I'm going to talk today about form and structure. And how we can use these to read a poem closely. This also ties into the syllabus under the idea of critical reading, close reading nuances. This idea of how to read it a little bit more closely. And it may even have a chance to kind of get into some of the other elements about research and things like that. But the main focus will be how to talk about form and structure when we're close reading a poem. And I want to start this by saying that one of the more common complaints, questions, I should say, that I would hear during the semesters would be that, how am I supposed to write 1,000 words, which is your total assignment, on a poem that's this long, right? Well, hopefully you saw the Gwendolyn Brooks poem where I'm trying to do 1,000 words on really just about two lines. But part of the thing that we can do when we think about how to write closely about a poem is to look for its formal components and its structure. So form, I'm going to use in a very specific way this afternoon, this evening, and this morning, whatever time it is. Form is this for the way I'm using it. Formal poetry is a preset system of rules that the poet's going to follow. So for the longest time, this has always been how poetry has been written. This is across many, many cultures. I mean, I don't have a specific number for you, but like you can look at Japanese Noh theater, very formal, that has structure, that it has to follow rules that it has. Pardon me. The structure for formal poetry that we're dealing with now is really two kind of components. What we call open form and closed form. But before I say that, the sentence I want you to get, if you're taking notes, which I think is great, the sentence I want you to write down is form is equal to content. And because this is true, we can also revert that, and the content is equal to the form. So in other words, the way a poem is written, how it is constructed, some of the rules that it follows, can actually tell us something about what the poem is saying. And what the poem is saying can oftentimes tell us why it's in this particular form. So that's an important thing to think about. And I want you to have that going forward, because when you start to write your papers, if you can know some of the rules to look for, a formal poem allows itself to be written about in a number of different ways that a free verse poem doesn't. So again, a formal poem is actually something very much like One Art by Elizabeth Bishop. This is closed form, meaning that this structure here that she's writing in is a predetermined system of writing that you're trying to emulate every time you write one. So what I mean by that is, if you look here, three-line stanzas, so a tercet, a three-line stanza, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those, okay? So 15 lines here, all in three-line stanzas, followed by a 4-line stanza, which is a quatrain. These 4 lines here are the end of the poem. There's no more. So when I have this, it's a 19 lines that follows this tercet, 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 tercet quatrain form. I'm dealing with almost what we call a villanelle. A villanelle, villanelle, is a French form originally, and it's highly repetitive. To make sure that I know that it's a villanelle, there's another 1 or 2 different things. The first is that there's a rhyme scheme. So these should all rhyme like this, okay? And as you see, they, for the most part, do, all right? Though there are some that don't rhyme exactly, and we'll talk about that in the video. And then the middle rhymes should work as well. These should all rhyme, okay? And they do, right? So that's another component. Rhyme makes this matter, and this is read as A-B-A, okay? A-B-A, the sound of A sounds like the sound of A here, and I'll have a document that really walks you through the villanelle structure. I think that's just kind of helpful to hear what I'm talking about. So this is that. Now, another thing to think about with the villanelle, specifically a villanelle, is it has highly repetitious lines. In fact, a perfect villanelle would have line 1 here, the art of losing isn't hard to master, should show up again exactly like it was first written in line 6. The art of losing isn't hard to master. That's true. Down here at line 12. Okay. The art of losing isn't hard to master. And then it should also be in line 18. The art of losing is not too hard to master. So we have a slight variation there in line 18, but the rest of it's pretty much exactly what it should be. Line 3 should be showing up again here, and then here, and then here. So if you'll notice, this is often, this is quite a bit different. Her second line here, her third line of this particular poem, or stanza I should say, looks different pretty much every time it shows up. We're going to talk about that variation as well. So a lot of things to consider right now, and we're really not even all that done with them, because finally the other word to think about is a refrain. Now the refrain, okay, are the words and the lines that are repeated, right? Specifically the lines that are repeated. So remember, this is a line, okay, this is a sentence, this is also a stanza. So we have here, this is the first line of the refrain, this is the second line of the refrain, and then this here is sort of the culminating refrain. So this is lines 1, the original line 1, the original line 3 are supposed to end the poem in the last 2 lines. So it's a really highly repetitious form. You say a lot of the same things over and over again. And traditionally in a villanelle, we want to think of it as a way to, I always imagine it as like having a song stuck in your head that's not really going away, and about the only thing you can do to work your way out of it is to just kind of complete the song, right? So that's what this villanelle is meant to do. A villanelle is meant to, there's something stuck, there's an obsession on somebody's mind, and what they want to do is they're trying to get out of that obsessive state by repeating it enough times that they can find a way to sort of escape that particular labyrinth. So this feels labyrinthine in that sense. It's very much, it's circuitous, right? So it kind of moves from here to here. It repeats itself. It has a rhyme scheme, and it's all meant to kind of get past this idea that our speaker has. So this poem has a lot going on. If you're not catching all of these things about form, don't worry. This is some pretty high-level stuff. We could talk about this for a long time. I'm more interested in what we can do with a poem given a little bit that we've talked about. So we're talking so far about form, which means a presets, let's call them preset rules, okay, that you have to follow. And we're dealing with the structure, so how the poem is actually put together on the page. This is a closed form, all right, a closed form, meaning that it has certain preset rules it has to follow to be in this form, and that particular title of that form is called a villanelle. Sorry, I feel like I'm kind of all over the place right now. I've never had to do this. You don't need this meta commentary. If you made it this far in the video, I'm sorry. So we're going to look at the poem here, and excuse me, and we're going to listen to it, and we're going to see, like we always do, what's something that really stands out, and if there's anything that we can pay attention to, or maybe we think we should pay attention to. And then we'll go from there. So this is one art. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day. Accept the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Then practice losing farther, losing faster, places and names and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch, and look, my last or next to last of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster, some realms I owned, 2 rivers, a continent. I missed them, but it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking voice, a gesture I love, I shan't have lied. It's evident the art of losing's not too hard to master, though it may look like, write it like disaster. Okay, so I'd love to know your opinions on the first read of this. So in your response journals, I'll include that. So let me know what you think about the poem, just from your initial experience hearing it and having read it on your own. What I notice is a number of things, right? It's really hard not to hear this over and over again, right? That's really clear to me. That stands out. This line, not so much. I don't see that as much. The rhyme is definitely there. I can hear it, but she's playing with it a number of times that it doesn't just completely drown me out. So I'm kind of interested in rhyme variation. In the next video, we'll cover that. I see sentences too. I really see that she's controlling her sentence. Like this one stood out to me a lot. A really short sentence. I think it's we have another one here. We actually have another one here too. Lovely. And then another one here. well, actually, technically it's up there. Point is, so she's playing with like sentence length and variation, right? So we have like an interesting use of punctuation. We rarely see a poem with like a semicolon, an exclamation point, a parenthetical, another exclamation point, and then also typically, this is my fault. This should be written in italics most of the time when it's printed. So that's my timer. So I just see like there's a lot happening inside of this space, right? There's a lot of movement going on inside of this one that it's interesting to me. And of course, the same thing here is the word of art being connected with the word of losing, right? So art of losing really stands out. It's like, what is that? I don't really know what she means by that yet, but I'm curious about that. And I'm going to explore that in my reading of the poem. When I return with this one, sorry. So when I return to this next one, I'm going to talk about how I'm going to go through a summary first because that's an important part of knowing the poem, and then I'm going to start talking about some of the components of it, such as the rhyme scheme, and try to give you a sense of why I think that's interesting. And we can see if we can't understand the poem to a slightly more complicated and layered way. So if you have any questions about this particular video, do let me know, and I will follow up as fast as I can. Thank you very much.